I am so excited today to get to share Carrie with you. We were on a podcast and we had met each other because we were on this podcast week after week, and we got to hear each other's stories of how we've went through different seasons of our lives and struggled through seasons, and now we are able to now coach and help other people on the internet. And it has just been so great to get to hear Carrie's story and see how it matches up with mine. And we just really hope that this resonates with our viewers. Now, Carrie, I want you to be able to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about you, because we're going to post this on both of our channels so we can get to know each other.
Well, yes, I am Carrie Stone, and I host Carrie On, where we talk all things money, wellness, and mindset for women over 50. And a little bit of my backstory: I was a speaker, trainer, and a business coach long before that industry even had a name. And then suddenly I spent a decade, fighting a chronic illness, and it changed everything. It was hard, it was humbling, and it forced me to get very smart about how I lived my life and how I spent my money. Mostly. Today, I help women over 50 to live their purpose with passion and to get over the things that had been holding them back, so that no matter what life has thrown at them, they can still live their dreams.
I love that we both have this time in our lives that we're really full of struggles and financial issues because of our medical bills. And, I also deal with a chronic illness and a spinal cord injury. So I have spent many of my years not being able to walk and not be able to do the things that I wanted to do. For 2 years, I couldn't even open my hands. When my kids were little, my hands were clawed shut and they wouldn't open. My brain couldn't send the messages to my hands. And so the same seasons of our lives, when your kids were in elementary school and my kids were in elementary school, they had sick moms. And now they have very healthy moms that are being able to affect a lot of people's lives now. And I just love that God has used us and those journeys that we have went on, not to be bitter and not to be grumpy about the past, but seeing how we are changing generations.
Yes. My daughter just recently said, "Mom, sometimes I forget how sick you were. And you were like a 90-year-old woman." And she said, "Now you're like 27.
Yeah. I often remind my kids that now I'm medicine free and all of the things that I'm healthier now. I just turned 50 in January, but I'm healthier now at 50 definitely than I was at 30. And it's been a really neat journey to now see the other side of it and know that there was hope on the other side of such a hard time in our lives.
Yes. And I think there's a lot of women, especially women over 50, who need to hear that and who need to be reminded of it, that there is hope.
When I first started this, I thought I was going to be talking to young moms, and that's kind of my heart. I go and talk at church MOPS groups and with women and, younger moms all the time. And we were foster parents, so that was also on my heart to really, try to change the generations. But it's kind of funny. Our grandma lived with us and she was 95. And so I got to help her through those last stages of her life and through hospice and everything, and, get to hear all of her stories. And then as I started this YouTube channel, I thought at the beginning I was going to be talking to young moms most of the time. And then I was on Mary's Nest podcast, and all of her followers are over 65. And so now 90% of my followers for the last year or two have been over 50. And I just really love that now people are finding us in this empty nest stage or single stage of their life and being able to save money on groceries. And but I realized too that calling on my heart to have a generational change, it could be any generation. That doesn't have to be the younger moms that we're making a change for.
Don't assume that women over 50 know what they're doing with their food, because they don't. Because I remember my daughter sent me your strawberry video a couple of years ago. And I was like, what? Because I was so sick and tired of losing my strawberries and having them go bad. And that revolutionized my life. But when I discovered your channel recently and I watched the cucumber, I was like, what Like, a cucumber can last for weeks. How many times, like, I've stuck my hand in the drawer and ended up grabbing onto a sopping mess of, like, mold and mess, and I'm like, it that we can still learn is what I'm saying, you know?
Yeah. So everything for me started during the pandemic, sharing tips on how not to have to go to the grocery store because scared moms were scared, during the pandemic, and they wanted to have, food for their family and their toddlers at the time. It was mostly young moms I was talking to at the very beginning, but somebody had said, "Oh, well, I only have blueberries for 4 days, and then we can't go back to the store for 2 weeks because, well, you're in Washington too. Like everything was
Right.
closed for us forever." And anyways, and so I answered this question about blueberries. I'm like, "Are they eating them? What do you mean you only have them for 4 days?" And she's like, "No, they go bad in 4 days." I'm like, "My blueberries are a month old. What are you talking about?" And that started this whole thing with strawberries in a jar, and landed me on a TED Talk and ever in the news all around the world. And it went viral. Viral. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. But the cucumbers that you're talking about, that is another one. Like, you need cucumbers to last for 3 weeks. We recently just had a banana video go viral, which is
I noticed that too. I was like, "What?"
it's just so funny, the things. But these are things that I learned from, my grandmas and, being raised on a farm, and those things that you learn just bringing produce in, or produce seasons. People don't think about produce seasons. And
Right.
we can only go grocery shopping now once a month. But when we first started this, it was like we were just trying to get out, not going to the grocery store but once a week, and then we kept pushing it out. And now we're to the point where we only go grocery shopping once a month, and we have fresh produce the entire time for the things that I teach, which you can find on my channel. And but we don't have to talk a ton about that today, about produce tips. And I want to really talk about like that weight on your shoulders when you have like financial stress and trying to make sure that your kids are fed or that you have groceries in your house. And I think we both have went through these same kind of seasons of that financial kind of stress. And I think that's really where this message will go and touch the most of the people, And so for us, we realized way back in the beginning that we had to set a budget for our family. And we set that budget way back in the beginning at $100 per person. And this was like 15 years ago when we set that. And we've had our kids, in our house and foster kids. And, our family size has changed, but we have stuck to that budget. And then around 2015, so it's been, over 10 years, I bumped that up to $135 per person because that's when I found out one of my kiddos who was going through some medical issues. She needed more organic things and less preservatives, and she's a vegetarian, and she's allergic to dairy, soy, gluten, and raw sugar cane.
Wow.
It was a lot. So at that time, as we were relearning how to buy all of our groceries and stuff, we changed that to $135 per person. And over the years, my kids have grown out, moved out of the house. Our grandma moved in for a while. We've used that same budget. But even through the pandemic and prices increasing, we've now been able to keep our grocery budget at $270 per month, which is $135 per person. And at the time, that's all we could afford. That, I had to make it work. And now I stay to that budget to show that it's possible, that we can still have good food and meals that are whole and, all the things that we need. And through that journey, I realized how much my body was being affected by those additives and preservatives and stuff that was in the ingredients. So I know that you have very similar learning about what you're eating and how it's affecting you. And I would love to have you share some of that.
Yeah, being sick is expensive. Like, like people don't realize that. I mean, it is incredibly expensive to be sick because for somebody like me, insurance doesn't cover most of what I do to be healthy. And I'm gluten intolerant. And so, of course, if I want bread, I get the privilege of paying a lot more for it. And so I just don't buy it because it's an expense that I don't need, but I've learned that I had to be really intentional about my purchases and, what I was putting in my body. Like I got a little laxed this week being away, and I've allowed some sugar in, and my body is going, girl, like, what are you doing? We don't want this, you know? And so it does cost more to live like that. But like Hippocrates said, right? Let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. And I think the one point that I really want women over 50 to hear is that groceries are not just a line item on your budget. It's not like how much can you get for cheap, you know, but they are literally your most important health investment. And, you know, you can take all the medications, you can do all the things, but if you're not putting good things in your body, you know, all the other things are not going to really make that much of a difference. And so we have to stop thinking about it as just groceries and think of it as medicine. And when we do that, that kind of changes our perspective of that budget line item, you know, because I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you spend $135 a month per person, because that really convicted me. And now I'm on a rampage to see if I can match it living on the west side of the state where everything costs more. But yeah, I purchased some groceries just for my week here in Florida. So $100. And for one person right here, you know. And so yeah, I'm interested to know how exactly you're doing that, because I eat all organic, you know, free range, all the things, and gluten free. And so tell us about that.
So we just moved here in September. So my whole entire life has been over in the Seattle area. And now we're on the other side of the mountains. So my whole everything from growing up and all the grocery shopping and dealing with everything, it's all been over there. And now we have to, when we lived over there, I could see Costco from my front window. That's how close we were from Costco. And there was a Walmart, Target, Fred Meyer's, Safeway. They were all within a half a mile of my house. Now we drive 45 minutes to go to Costco.
Now we only put you on to go once a month.
I know. That was actually why we started going to the store less years ago. Now, it was before COVID that we started, was to prove that we wanted to move over here and we wanted to live a more rural life. And anyways, and so we started, well, we can't go to the grocery store every day. And we were going to have to start, you know, seeing if we can push that out. And, you know, learning those tricks that I've learned over the years, like an avocado used to send us to the grocery store, and now I can get an avocado to last for a month. And so without going bad.
So I got to watch that video.
Yeah. So I focus on making sure we have quality ingredients in our house and that they're allergy friendly for us. So those are the main keystones that I'm looking at. I am mostly organic with what we buy. I normally say that we're about 80% organic and 20% I give myself a little bit of grace. And so, you know, we're able to do that. And then with that same grocery budget, I put some of the money aside every month, and every 2 years we buy beef from a local farmer. And so I know where our beef is coming from, but it's still in that same grocery budget that we're talking about, but really focusing on having zero waste. So I had a TED Talk about this, and the average family is throwing away over 40% of the food that they're buying. And that is, you know, produce definitely that they're throwing away, but not looking in your freezers and seeing what, you know, is going to go bad, or, you know, especially like this time of year, we don't want, you know, a casserole or something that goes into the oven that you might have put in the freezer. We want spring and summer, you know, kind of meals. And, you know, rotating those items out and really concentrating on rotating those items out of our pantry so we're not overbuying. And I really believe in food security after going through that, you know, really hard time in our lives, and we were having to go to the food bank, and we were getting food from family members and stuff that were helping us, and I wasn't understanding why they were giving me things that looked like the best by date had passed on them, you know, and, you know, at the time I didn't understand, and now I've done a lot of research on it to know that, you know, most of those canned items are good for 18 months to 3 years, depending on, you know, what it is. And, you know, yes, you can eat it after that, but I have to be careful what I say. So
Yeah.
I have to, you know, say the, you know, strict guidelines on that to make sure. But, you know, the idea of having food in our house and knowing that we could feed our family, it didn't matter what else was going on in the world. It didn't matter,
Right.
if other bills, credit card bills at the time were like debt free now, but those other kind of things weren't getting paid as long as those four walls were getting covered, as like Dave Ramsey says, we did our food, we did our mortgage, we did our lights, and then we made sure we had gas for my husband to drive to work. And, other than that, those were our main focuses, and we try to keep those our main focuses still. And really, the fun money that we have and those kind of things, they come after making sure these necessity things happen. And now we live near our kids, which is just amazing. We all live like in walking distance of each other. And to know, like, there was a power outage the other night and everybody just came over and knew that mom could just add a little bit more to whatever we were making. And, we were going to be able to still have dinner with a power outage at 4:30.
Wow.
Just know that we can take care of ourselves now and we can take care of our kids. And it's just so important to me to really focus on making sure that those things that bring me peace, which is having food security in our house, is something that we work on and we strive towards. And being able to share that example, because we know how hard it is to not feel like you have any ingredients in your house and you have to wait 3 more days until payday, or
Yeah.
How you stretch out those things, or
Well, and I think more people are going through that now, and I see a lot of this online. People are just really stressed about the cost of things at the grocery store and worried about having enough food. And I know when we lost everything and had nothing, I made the major mistake that I think actually led to my downfall in my health, and that was I went to the cheap everything. We never ate many carbs, and all of a sudden we're eating corn chips and rice and potatoes and all the more least expensive things. And my body just, that was it. That was all it could, after all the stress and then ruining my diet with everything else, my body just went, I'm done. So this is coming out of nowhere, but just because what you were talking about, this made me want to ask this. There are people going, I could never spend just $135 a month. How can they have a healthy diet, right? And like say they want to eat, I eat mostly organic too, thick-skinned things. I will, I go with the Dirty Dozen in those lists that help me to pick the right things to go organic on. But how can they still have a healthy diet and spend $135 per person?
I've really found over the years, I've narrowed down the ingredients we have in our house. So I try to think of every food item we bring into our house as ingredients and, how I can use that. So like we don't buy sour cream anymore. We buy Greek yogurt because Greek yogurt I can use, as sour cream. And we've done it for so many years now that it just tastes like sour cream to us.
Mm-hmm.
But I can also put in a smoothie. I can make brownies with that. I can thicken a sauce with it. It gets used up all the
Had
way.
it for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. All the ways.
Yeah.
All the ways. Cottage cheese is another one. We always buy cottage cheese at Costco. Like we can blend that. We can, I don't like the texture of cottage cheese. My husband will eat it as a snack, not me. But I will add it to a lot of things. And I know those are both dairy items. But, things like crunchy tacos, that's something else. I don't buy taco shells anymore. I will buy a big bag of organic chips at Costco. And then I put those in glass jars. And they stay fresh for a few months. So even though we're only a family size of 2, I can still buy that $6 bag of chips. And it will last us for months. And
Because I stopped buying that because of the kids being gone.
yeah.
Yeah, you break that up into smaller jars, like
Or gallon-sized jars. I have big jars, but normally it takes like 2 of those if you're using the whole bag. But, we'll make nachos that are loaded with veggies and beans and taco meat and stuff and have those, and that still gives you that crunchy, chip, kind of
yeah.
the crunchy shell But now I buy either flour or corn tortillas instead that last so much longer. And that way I can use those for not only the tacos, but breakfast burritos and quesadillas and, all of the things. And we're using it up. So, like, if you start going through the things that you're buying, what you like in your house, and see if there's something that you can buy that's more versatile and that you will be able to use up longer. And I probably, whatever item it is, I could probably give you a tip on how to even keep that item longer. So,
Wow.
even like the Greek yogurt and the cottage cheese, when you bring it home, we get it at Costco, so it's in the big tubs. You put it in quart-sized glass jars with a metal lid, and that will make it extend out 2 weeks past the best by date. So normally the best by date is every 6 weeks, and then if you're doing it this way, it's every 2 months. So for a while, we were like, one time we were buying Greek yogurt, and the next time we were buying cottage cheese and just swapping out which ones we did. But I have tips for all of the things, from berries to all the produce items, but really keeping your food fresh and rotating it. But we've spent like 2 years now here on the channel showing all of my grocery hauls and really showing how I'm able to break down things to ingredients and then be able to use those ingredients. And then on our channel, we do a meal series every 2 weeks. So I show all the different meals that I'm making during these different seasons of our lives. Like, I just got over bronchitis. The day that I went grocery shopping, I thought, I was healthy. All the things are good. And then 5 weeks later, I'm like, still, I was, in the ER, like at the 4-week mark of it, it was so bad. But we still had all of the food that we had bought. And we ended up being able to repurpose it. So it was items that I was craving at the time, because I don't like to meal plan. I like to have ingredients here in our house for the day and the energy I have,
Right.
And we can, mix and match stuff. But so many people have learned so many lessons watching those meals videos with me to like really see, oh, I'm pulling that, meat back out of the freezer and we're repurposing it. We're doing it this way. And dinner took me 10 minutes to cook.
That is amazing. And I think when it comes to like food waste and those types of things, I think a lot of what happens, especially with women over 50, when they're getting into caretaking, like you went through with your grandmother, transitions like empty nesting, they have a job, they maybe have a chronic illness. I have a woman right now who's been reaching out to me who has a full-time job. She's caretaking for a loved one, and she has multiple chronic illnesses. And she was asking me, how to balance her life out and how to get better. And I think what happens is then we start tolerating the waste because we're just surviving. And like, I went through this the last couple of years. Our house sits on what used to be a farm. Now it's just a 1/4 acre lot. And we have 6 apple trees and 2 Asian pear trees and a regular pear tree and a cherry tree and a plum tree and grapes, right? And after my kids left home, the stuff was not getting picked because I started my YouTube channel and I have a chronic illness that also takes my time. And so 2 years ago, I look out and there's apples everywhere in the yard, and I felt guilty. I felt like a bad steward of what God had blessed us with. Like, here we are with all this fruit, and it went wasted. So I put on my calendar for the next year, at the top of October, do not waste apples. And I had a plan. I was going to give them away at church. I was going to give them away to the neighbors and all that. Well, then we ended up on a film set for 3 weeks. And when I came back, I had to pay a price physically for that. And the apples were rotting on the ground again. And after watching your videos, now I'm like, I'm going to dry those.
Or if I'm going to the Facebook group.
Yeah, I'm going to dry those apples this year and give them as Christmas gifts.
There you go.
Because the one year I did that years ago, people loved that. They were like, these are your apples? These are so amazing, And, so I think what happens is they get so overwhelmed. They're just surviving. Mm-hmm. And it's that like habit that has to kind of change and turn more into self-care, and realize that one thing, when you're shopping less, you're spending less energy, less time, I started backing off on shopping. You talked about how COVID changed how you viewed shopping. COVID made me hate going to the grocery store. I'm still traumatized. I'm still traumatized by those lanes. Do you remember like Safeway? Yes, it's only go one direction in each. And if you happen to go the wrong direction, which I'm always that person, then people look at you like you just, committed some horrible sin. And, it was just terrible. So I shop Imperfect Foods twice a month. Now you've challenged me. I'm going to try to go once a month. And then do Thrive like every other month. And then I'll go to Grocery Outlet whenever I'm near one. So it's about every 2 to 3 months. And then my husband does not let me go to Costco. So he does Costco every 2 to 3 months. And but now I'm feeling challenged, like to change my habits and, try to go less. And that is actually self-care. That is actually giving myself more time to heal, more time to work, more time to take care of my home, and less running around just trying to find things.
It's funny how people are like, oh, well, like, I don't want to spend a half an hour washing my produce, but they don't mind going to the grocery store every 3 days and throwing away what they bought on Sunday. Like, it's that mindset shift. But even recently with me being sick, I didn't end up washing my produce for like 4 days. And that just never happens normally. Like, normally I'm either washing it that day that I went grocery shopping to the store, but or we're holding it for the next day because we're filming it. Like sometimes I will hold it off to the next day, but never 4 days. And I couldn't believe like how many of the oranges have went bad already. Like
that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah. So the ways that I teach to wash things, it kills off the mold spores, 𝐂𝐎𝐍𝐿, Listeria, and any harmful pathogens that you have on your produce items. And it breaks down those pesticides and stuff if you have them on there. But I am a farm girl and we are a farm family and all of our family members are in farming. And I truly don't believe that you can wash away pesticides.
Can't.
I believe it's grown into the fruits, it's grown into the produce items from the groundwater and, the ground, the soil, into the plants, all the things. So I don't try to focus on that too much. I just try to focus on making sure that we have as wholesome of items as we can in our house and, feed our family, and just that peace that it gives us to know that we do have food in our house and we don't have to stress about empty store shelves or what's going on in the world and all of those kind of things, because we've gradually built this up, and gradually keep working towards that. Even though our family household size is smaller, we still, are trying to make sure that we have everything here that we need on that really small budget. That budget is smaller than what families on food stamps gets. And
really?
Yeah, it ends up to be $4.44 per day.
Wow.
And the other budget is like $6.50 a day. So it really does show you can, no matter what your budget is, you can have wholesome items in your house and, feed your family to your beliefs,
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, when you were talking about the 4 days and what difference that made with the oranges, I saw your video on cleaning spring mix. And it was about 4 days. I was in Nashville, and it was about 4 days after I had gotten the spring mix. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to go clean that. So I went and I got your video up, and I watched and followed all the directions, and it was too late. Oh, it was 4 days, and it was like, And I still managed to pull like all the spinach out of it, and I was able to use that in like eggs and stuff, But I was like, wow.
That spring mix from that video, we were still eating at the month mark. So, and I have lettuce in my fridge right now that's over 5 weeks old. Trying to look at
wow.
But, totally perfect lettuce that I like to be able to show, like, don't eat that. I'm going to say that for a video. So, just kind of funny. That happens a lot in my house. Can I open this? No. That's for a video. But I really show, even through those meals videos, what our meals are looking like through the 3rd and 4th week after we went to the grocery store, that we're still using this produce that I washed, that I bought, a month ago. And so people can really see, I'm showing the receipts, I'm really showing that, oh no, I'm not just trying to have viral videos on YouTube. I'm really trying to help families change their lives. And, it's from those seasons of stress that it's interesting. I heard on one of your videos, so you were talking about when the market crashed in 2007, 2008. I was a mortgage broker during that time. And I was helping families try to get out of bad mortgages that other families had put them in, and or other mortgage brokers had put them in. And it's interesting. Right after the peak of that is when I got sick. That was when I lost use of both my hands for 2 years, when my kids were in elementary school, and they had to learn how to cook, and they had to learn how to everything with me. Like, I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to teach you how to do it, and I'm going to tell you what to do it. But they were like early elementary school kids at the time. And it's just interesting how that stress of chronic stress, stress trying to help families, for 2 years just took a toll on my body. My body just gave out. It was just
your body can only handle so much. And that's what happened to me. It was one stress after another. And did you know, I just read this quote the other day. Chronic illness in working age adults has risen 25% over the last 10 years. Like, that to me is crazy. Like, and along with that, the price of groceries is also going up. So we have more and more people who really need to be more conscious of what they're buying, what they're eating. And one of the great things about the system that you use too is you don't eat out very much either, do you?
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yeah.
We try to do special occasions or family events, but even our 20th anniversary, we're going on 29 years this year in June, but our 20th anniversary, we had $20 to spend. Like, that's all we had to spend. And we went and got milkshakes and we watched the sunset. And it was like one of my favorite anniversaries ever. We really didn't harm our family by, putting our family in debt or not paying a bill to say that, oh, we have to celebrate this. It's a big deal. We used what we had and we made the best of it. And I think that's just really carried on into our whole lives is, we try to make the best of whatever it is. And, I do like to try to buy the best quality of whatever I can afford, no matter what it is. I'm thinking about the longevity of things and stuff. And I really will save and focus, save for years I save for years to get a canner. Canner's like $400 now. I think it was like $360 at the time. But
Right.
I know this canner is going to go to my kids someday and my grandkids someday. Like, that saving and being able to buy a nicer item that will leave a legacy of Grandma's kitchen, is important to me.
Well, I think that's one of the things we've lost track of, right? Because we can just whip out a credit card. We can just, pay for something now. We've lost that skill of delayed gratification. And I would rather wait, have something better quality that's going to last than to have a bunch of garbage in my house, And I certainly don't want to put garbage in my body because my body fights hard enough. It's like my poor body, it's just had to fight so hard. My kids were 8 and 11 when I was bedridden the second time. I got sick when they were toddlers too, with celiac disease. And then, but since I knew what was wrong, I got better. I was strong and vibrant again. But yeah, they got very creative though. Like, I can remember my son just deciding, I want donuts. So he got online, found gluten-free donuts, and went to the kitchen and made gluten-free donuts. He would just go with it, and we used it as a homeschool opportunity. That's also, and I think that when you're going through hard times like that, you're especially with kids at home, it's going to impact them long term. They are going to be affected by it. So, like, our attitude through it, I think you and I both chose that, like, to be very positive, very happy. I chose to be very joyful. Like, I just wanted to be very joyful, and I became known for that, for being that. And I just think that was really important for, raising little ones through that, because the stresses of life are hard enough. They don't need you to be miserable. Too. And so often when the stresses hit, we get angry, we get bitter, we get naggy, especially when we're over 50. And if we haven't had our hormones tested and we're not getting all the help that we need physically with those things, we can get bitter and angry very, very quickly, So again, making what we put into our bodies more and more important.
It's so important. I want you to be able to share about your program that you do and how you help women and, with all the things outside of the kitchen, because I
Yeah.
normally just talk about things inside the kitchen. But I'd love for you to share and be able to share with my audience, if they haven't met you, more about you and your programs and your videos and your channel.
Yes, I just have always had a great passion for helping women to identify their purpose and live that purpose with passion. And so I think one of the things that a lot of women over 50 are struggling with is feeling very stuck and not having clarity for their future and feeling like, especially after the empty nest, what do I do now? And what am I doing with the rest of my life? And I just really want women to realize, like, it's not too late. You're not too old. And like, this is the most exciting phase of your entire life. Like, you get the choice in how you're going to enter this stage of life. And so I did create a 7-day reset program that I'm really, really excited about. And it's like just $7, 7 days, 15 minutes a day to really help get you on track. And so I'm guessing we can put that information in the description below. And yeah, I'm just really excited to help women to just really get the most out of this season of life. Just like you're helping them get the most out of their produce and their grocery bills, I'm helping them to, once they fix all their food and preserve all that food and, make the most of their kitchen, I'm helping them to go outside of the kitchen and really live their best life.
Yeah, I am so excited for this chapter of my life. Like, we just moved. I can officially say, because she said that I could say now, I'm a grandma. And so, um, for a while, I wasn't allowed to say that. So, we moved here. Our family's all in walking distance. I can, do the things that I want to do and still be able to, do this YouTube thing, and all of the different social medias we do to touch other families, but to see the difference that we're able to make in our own families' lives now is just amazing. But if you're new to me, you would find Amy Gross at the Cross Legacy on all of the different social media platforms, but especially here on YouTube. I answer every single question that comes into my channel all day long.
too.
So we always make sure in the morning and the evening I have checked off all of those comment boxes. So sometimes YouTube does like shadow them from me and I can't see them, but that is a big part of my day, is being able to connect with people on my channel. And if you're interested in my book, it's called The Zero Waste Produce Guide. And it goes through 75 fruits and vegetables, A to Z, in this book. And we have a coupon code that we'll link in the description, but it is Carrie15 for Carrie's followers that want to get this book. And we will put the links all in the description for you.
I know I'll be getting that. And I just want to say to my audience, if you are not subscribed to the Cross Legacy, please hit that subscribe button for her, because you will learn so much. I just cannot believe how much I'm learning. And I told my daughter, you have to be following this woman. So, subscribe and get your daughters to subscribe, and let's be better stewards of all the blessings around us. Like, let's just be better stewards of our talents, our time, our food, our resources. And that just makes the world a better, brighter, and more beautiful place.
I love surrounding myself with like-minded women. And I think that just being around positive women that can just help brighten your moods. I noticed that both of us just seem to smile the whole entire time that we're there. But it's natural, it's joyful, it's what's coming out of our hearts. And, I get people saying, oh, you shouldn't smile so much. And I'm just like, that's me, like, if you don't like that, that's the joy that comes out of me. And
Yeah.
I just hope that you end up following both of our channels and that we have said something that resonates with your heart today. And just so thankful that you joined me today on this call, Carrie.
I'm so grateful that you asked. This was so much fun.